Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Kiki and I are here today, and we're going to do 3 PowerPoints. As a matter of fact, one leads into the next. The first one we're going to do is on branding and how important your brand is to be consistent and to be out there and recognized. And that's going to lead into the second PowerPoint, which is marketing versus positioning, which talks a lot about branding as well. And then Kiki is going to talk about lead conversion and how to thoroughly and in an organized way follow up with your leads. Remember that we are live streaming and recording, and you can also ask questions, and those will be brought to us and we'll answer them, so bring your questions on. So let's get going with our first PowerPoint, which is about branding. So we all know that in our branding, we have, part of our branding is people talking about us, our testimonials. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a little while. But for the most part, we do our testimonials after the transaction is finished. The new thought is to ask for a testimonial during the transaction. This is a good way to do a self-evaluation of how your client feels you are doing after the accepted offer, after the accepted purchase and sale, just, communicating with them. If they say, oh my gosh, this has been such a smooth transaction, I couldn't be happier, then fine. If they say, I haven't heard from you in 3 weeks, then you do an adjustment with yourself for the way you're communicating with people. But it's a lot better to get a communication from them and a testimonial while the transaction is going on, because you and your team help them have a smooth transaction. So we're going to talk about the way that you consistently brand and funnel everything so that it is consistently talking about you. And always remember, this is getting a little ahead of ourselves, but your branding should be about you, about your team, and about LAER. So another whole presentation could be on hashtags, but you should always put pound whatever your business name or website is, pound whatever team you're part of if you are part of a team, and always, every post that I do always is pound LAER Realty Partners. Do you have anything to add to that?
I usually do pound roar, hashtag roar, or hashtag, my personal thing is hashtag KQ Homes or sold by Kiki, or anything that will continue to bring it back to you, a reminder of your business.
So we're going to talk about the components of personal branding, and again, this is to get you thinking about what are you doing, what could you be doing better and more consistently. The benefits of a powerful personal brand. 1 is a steady stream of ideal clients. 2 is rewarding partnerships. 3, leadership opportunities. 4, a great mind share. 5, association with a marketing niche, that means a neighborhood that you're marketing to. Great credibility, and again, that goes along with the consistency. Recognition and prestige, which again goes along with the consistency, and a higher perceived value. So we're going to talk about each letter, believe it or not. That's how simple this is, but again, it'll make you think about what are you doing with your own branding. Authenticity. Anyone other than you, anything other than the real you won't do. My friend Katie Lance says, lean into who you are and not who you are not. Discover exactly what makes you fascinating. What are your best attributes? Build your brand on your truth strengths. And we've talked about that before. Blogging, and we have a blog through LAER as well. An insight website is the engine of your personal brand. Your blog is its fuel. It tells your story. Your life is your story. You need to start a blog, and once you do, there's no stopping. With Instagram stories, Sometimes you're telling the background of what you're really doing with a post or with a presentation, but tell the story. It makes you be more than a realtor and be a real human being. Content. Your content is so valuable. Again, your life is your story. Your content is very important and important to be consistent. Valuable content has magnetic power. Create an interesting mix of content to earn the mind share and trust your brand needs.
I think a lot of people have a problem with content because they just think that they can't find it, or they don't know what to do for that day or for the week or for the month. The way that I do my social media, I kind of schedule it out for the month and have it go. So I'm not every day scrambling to figure out what I'm doing for that day. So, and we have tons of places where we can get content from. We have our boards that push out content all the time. That's for you to use as well. You know, Zillow has content, Realtor.com has content. They have so much content anywhere. You just gotta find it. And if you're part of your boards, if you're part of social groups as well, if you're in Facebook in real estate groups, they're usually pumping out content as well. So there's plenty of ways to do it. It's just once you do figure out your style and your brand, make sure that it's consistent throughout your entire social media platforms.
Very important.
Yeah.
Define your audience. To focus on the needs of your readers, you must define their pain points and identify how you can help. Also, you don't want to be everything to everybody. If you have a certain niche, like serving senior residents or serving the military or serving relocation, find out what your niche is and concentrate on that so that you can better pinpoint and focus on the things that you want to say to that particular group. Email list. Email is your ace. The money media. It's private, permission-based, and pervasive. Commit to developing an email list and use it. So that goes back to what we talked about yesterday, which was establishing your database. Make sure that you have your contacts or even your marketing niche, your neighborhood that you're marketing to, in an organized place. So again, you can be consistently marketing to it. Focus. Blurry brands languish. Now this, I wanted to say something about, there's an agent in our Westford office, Mark Tavener, and he does a postcard mailing to his lead conversions. And on that postcard, his branding is consistent. Every single time, his team logo, his picture, whatever he's saying is consistent. So by the time they've gotten the second or third postcard, they're like, oh yeah, I recognize that person. So it's very important to establish what picture you're using, what logo you're using, and have that branding be consistent. So define your brand with a focused niche to connect with the minds of those you aim to influence. If you're new to real estate, and we've talked about this before, is there a neighborhood that you're going to start marketing to? And again, do a consistent campaign of content to that neighborhood or niche. Graphic design. Everything you create should be presented with class and continuity, what we just talked about with the postcards. Develop a tasty logo, a color palette, and a design standards that reflect well your brand. Sometimes if you're starting out, you might be experimenting with it, but pick a picture that you want to stick with, establish a brand, a logo for yourself or your team that you want to use.
I usually, when it's new agents or new teams, I kind of just have a conversation with the agent and say, listen, what exactly do you want to portray to your client? Like, what do you want them to see? You don't want to have too many words. You don't want to have too many slogans. You don't want to have too many sentences or too many colors. It has to be clear and precise to what you're trying to tell them, that you're an agent, you're professional, and it's classic. And it has to be well viewed on screen, on paper, on, anywhere, any type of marketing, it has to look good. So usually 1 or 2 colors, and a couple of, either a couple names if there's a team member, like a team name, or just one name that reflects everybody else. Like there's certain variations that I do for logos. So I have 2 logos. I have one that's very clean and sleek, and then I have one where it's like a house and my logo underneath it. So you can play with it. It took me a little while to get there, and every few years not every few years, every few 6 months I would play with something else. I would keep the same colors that I had, but I would change the design just a little bit until I loved it again. So that's probably a bad thing for me to continue to change it, but it shows that you're growing.
I was going to say, you're evolving it, into what is the best. Help others. Don't wait for opportunities to come to you. Find ways to be helpful. Be the first to volunteer. Connect with people or get behind any meaningful mission. At LAER, we are all about being part of the community and giving back. And this talks about you as a person. People want to know when you're on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram that you are part of a community, whether it's volunteering to read at the library or Habitat for Humanity or whatever it is. But you're not boasting about those things. You're just saying, I am part of a community and I'm giving back as well. And that makes them think that you are more rounded than just being a real estate agent 7 days a week.
And I think the easiest way to do that is to check in to wherever you are and let them know what you're doing. Because if it's not on Facebook, it didn't happen nowadays.
Yeah, right.
And that's how they research who you are and what you're doing. So if it's not on Facebook or any other social media platform, they don't know what you're doing. That's their way of getting to know you.
Influencers. Influential professionals have prominent friends. Seek out leaders. Surround yourself with them. Find ways to be of value to them. Stacy in LAER University, she's interviewed many influential people all over the world. And in her interviewing them, she's learning from them, about them, and sharing that with us. You can do the same thing with any event that you attend, whether it's a board event or a MAR event or a NAR event like we just had in Boston. The people that you meet there, you can learn something about them, which can help you to understand yourself and grow and use it for your business as well. So that interconnection and the networking is really important. Back to the boards, join. Affiliations are all important to the growth of your brand. Find groups you'd be proud to be part of, get involved with, and make your presence known. Next Thursday, Kristen Blanchette is coming to speak to us. She's the newly elected president of our Northeast Association of Realtors. And I've asked her to speak to what it's about to be part of a board and the opportunities that there are to join a committee. I was on the education committee for several years, and we did attorney roundtables and all sorts of different things. But it's a way for you to get to know other agents and to be a representative and a support for your board system and bring that back to your offices and share as well. Keywords. When surfers go a-Googling, which words will lead them to you? Build a short list of the most relevant keywords and use them often.
Yeah, so that's hashtags in my opinion. So again, for your team members, if you have, so mine is KQ Homes or Sold by Kiki, or something that's going to always take you back to your team's name or what you guys are doing.
Believe it or not, you can put up to 30 hashtags on anything you post. Not that we're going to do that, but again, as Kiki said, it's leading people to you. We actually have a document on helpful hashtags, which could be a whole other class to help people.
There is a website where you can search hashtags and they'll tell you the most popular ones. So if you're trying to grow your social media platforms, especially on Instagram, that's where I go, is I plug in whatever word I need it to be, and then it'll tell me what's the most popular hashtags on there, and then I just copy and paste them into my post for the day.
The next one is LinkedIn. It's today's who's who of the professional world. Take LinkedIn seriously and master its every nook and cranny. So LinkedIn is where you get defined as a realtor. Make sure your picture is up to date. Make sure your bio is up to date.
A lot of people leave LinkedIn out just because they're like, oh, it's a professional platform. No one's really looking for business there. But a lot of professionals are looking for houses there. And agents are, clients are on there to see your professional page. So if you're not up to date, if your profile's not up, they have changed LinkedIn so much that it's kind of, a social platform now where you can blog, you can post statuses, you can do the wall of, what's happening that day or whatever. So if it's not updated with a banner of, your logo or LAER's logo and all your updated information, you're kind of just falling behind.
There was an article I think it was Inman News recently, that talked about the way millennials are searching when they're thinking of buying. And they said they search for 3 months before they even start searching for a realtor. And the first thing they do is go to the LinkedIn profile. So there's a reason. Just take some time to go to that. Another thing, segueing sideways from that, is if you have people in your LinkedIn profile, you can bring that list over to Facebook and add that as a Facebook list as well. If you have questions on that, it's separate time. Question.
They want to know what the hashtag website Kiki mentioned is.
Hold on, let me get it here. You can go ahead.
I have that article as well we can share. Media. Media is more complex than ever and more vital. Identify the outlets that are most valued in your field and use their tools to elevate your brand. So again, this might get a little bit more to Facebook ads or even multimedia campaigns, but you can't be everything to everybody. Choose which ones which ones you enjoy using, and go from there. We have the answer to the question.
It's dailypurposes.com.
Display.
Displaypurposes.com.
So displaypurposes.com is where you can find help for your hashtags. Networking, we talked about this a little bit. Making connections locally, regionally, and globally. Have a business card or something of even greater value to distribute. Follow up and follow through. If you've had a meeting with someone, send a thank you note. There isn't anything more powerful than a handwritten thank you note. Nix the notion of universal appeal. Take strong stands on your ideals and voice your opinions. There's no notoriety in bland land. Be bold. So
I would watch that a little bit.
Yeah.
It depends on what you're talking about. So if you love real estate, then go ahead and tell the world. I tend to do that. I say I'm always love my job. I'm always doing things. And I'm like, doing what I love. But I would kind of stay neutral with like religion, politics, those hot topics that people get offended by. Right. And in this day and age, everyone's getting offended by everything. So just, kind of tone it down a little bit with stuff that people are having issues with.
Yeah. Photo. I'm sorry, we have another question?
How to link your LinkedIn contacts into Facebook.
Oh, that's a longer subject.
Maybe save it for another.
Yeah, that's
day.
Katie Lance.
We'll have a class on it.
Yeah,
it's little.
The reason I mentioned that is you'd be surprised if you go into LinkedIn how many people are already there, and I'm guilty of that as well. But why not use the group that you have there, bring them over to Facebook, and include them as a Facebook list in something that you're doing? And yes, we can expand on that. I actually have an article or a webinar that Katie Lance did exactly about that, so I can share that later on. Photo. Your face must appear all across the social sphere. Don't crimp here. And we've tried very hard at LAER to get professional shots done of everyone. We are doing boot camp here tomorrow, and the photographer will be here. Hire a pro to do the photo shoot and pick the portrait that says, "I'm your friend." I mean, you want it to be professional, but a little bit personable
Just friendly, you
at
know.
the same time. Questions. Ask questions. Ask people to tell you their stories. Ask for their ideas. Then listen closely. Everyone loves a good listener. This also goes back to when you're meeting with a buyer or seller. Listen to their story. There's a phrase that says, listen twice as often as you speak. Understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, what's on their wish list, what's the reason that they're making a lifestyle change. And when you listen, affirm what they're saying, repeat it, and then go into detail about it. And they will appreciate that. Recognize, you won't achieve your goals on your own. Privately and publicly, recognize the contributions of every person who's played a part in your brand development. Again, this is a big year of gratitude. Take the time to thank somebody for taking the time to meet with you, to go over how to use hashtags, or to help you build your brand, or help you with a segment of your marketing. Be grateful for whoever it is that can help you be a better realtor.
And adding people publicly, thanking them on Facebook, only exposes your gratitude to their friends as well.
Right.
So why wouldn't you just continue to add everybody onto your timeline, and whoever they are friends with sees the same thing. So
Slogan, your brand should be the promise you make. Work at developing a unique selling proposition and express it in a concise, memorable slogan. I have put before, what will your lifestyle change be this year? And that kind of is all-encompassing, meaning, are you upsizing, downsizing, taking parents in, you've just become pregnant for the third time, or kids have just finished college and you don't need the backyard and the swing set anymore, and you're going back to an urban environment. So think about the slogan that might represent the kind of realtor that you want to be. Teach. Every person you admire taught you a valuable lesson. Commit to nurturing the teacher within and build your brand by becoming a trusted advisor. So education on all ends, what you're learning, what you're helping someone else with. If you have a certain talent, be willing to share it. Be willing to just have coffee with someone and share your experiences. Back to Mark, for instance, in the Westford office. He has shared many times the way he follows up with lead conversion, the marketing that he does. You know, he's not keeping that to himself. He's helping someone else become a better real estate agent by sharing. And we should all think about doing that as well. Understand triggers. Weak brands focus solely on intellectual arguments. Strong brands tap into emotions. The subject you need to master is psychology. Become a student of it. So that's kind of saying what trigger is your brand going to...
You always go for the emotions. What's going to get them to feel like they understand how you feel. Right. That's the biggest thing. And once you do that, they're like your friend. You know, as soon as you get them on a personal level, they feel like you're a human as well. You're not just business, and they trust you. It's a big thing that people forget to do when they're marketing.
Voice. People remember how you made them feel. What you say is important, but how you say it is even more important. Develop a unique and genuine voice. This again goes back to what I just said about listening. When you're meeting with, you speak differently in the structure of your sentences if you were meeting with Martha and Henry, who have owned their home for 50 years, or the millennial who's buying his first house. So think about that and listen affirm what they're saying and then respond. That is going to help them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize the way you say something can come off wrong when you're trying to mean well.
Mm.
So I know a ton of people that personally in my life, family, that will get along or, you know, get longer with me if they just said things a certain way. So even with your kids, like there's a certain way you have to speak to them. There's a certain way that you have to speak to clients. In order for them to understand and be on your level, you need to understand how they communicate.
Yeah.
So.
Win friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie's classic book remains unsurpassed as the manual for understanding the essence of influence. Reread it and win new friends. So it's important to always be conscious of that as well. Examine. Your X-ray for all online efforts is analytics. Deploy Google Analytics and or additional tools to inform you of how visitors behave on your site and what you can do to improve their experience. Kiki could talk for an hour about that.
Yeah, I mean, analytics are like your bread and butter. It tells you what's working, what's not working, what you need to do better on, where you're slacking, and it's a lot of work, but you know, you need to know what's working. And before they didn't have all this. You just kind of threw something out there and hoped that it worked. Now you have everything that's being tracked. Everyone knows what's happening, and it's a lot easier to reach people if you just put in the effort behind the analytics.
The first rule of writing emotively is using the first person. You are I, the reader is you. If you want to push their buttons, write conversationally. So remember how you're structuring things, whether it's in your blog or your email or in a video that you're making. Just think about how you're presenting yourself in the structure of the wording that you're doing. Just something to always be conscious of. Zeal is a strong feeling of interest and enthusiasm that makes one determined to do something. Without it, there's no point in building a personal brand. So I think there's a fine line between zeal and conceit. Zeal is not conceit. I don't think it's more being proud and confident of the brand that you've built. It represents you.
Yeah.
So that's all of that. A to Z is to get you to think about what you're doing with your brand. Do you need to improve something? If you ever have questions, just come to either Kiki or me and we'll help you expand what you're doing. Back to Facebook for a minute. There's a lot of ways to look at analytics in Facebook, which I'm sure a lot of people haven't done yet, but you should be examining that, and we'll talk about that more later.
Yeah, if you have your business Facebook page, it literally tells you how many people that's seen that post, what did well, what didn't do well, how many new likes you have. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can use that.
The areas that you're touching.
Yeah.
Can you make this full?
I'm not sure.
So now we're going to talk about marketing versus positioning, and this is why I did the branding first, because this is Stacy's PowerPoint, and in that she will talk quite a bit about your marketing and your branding.
Better for me for it to be like that.
Okay,
that's fine.
All right. So marketing is the action or business of promoting and selling products or services. You're marketing yourself. You're marketing your brand. What is marketing? Acquiring, optimizing, retaining, and multiplying customers. So obviously you want your marketing to build your business and add to your client base. The person who knows how to get, keep, and cultivate, that means stay in touch with, a customer gets paid the most, period. It's that simple. Positioning is an effort to influence consumer perception of a brand. So that's how the client perceives the brand that you're putting out there, which goes back to what we just talked about, or product relative to the perception of competing brands and products. And that's another thought too, that you might look at what other people are doing out there, which is so easy to do, to look at other people's websites, to look at other people's brands, and find out, gee, I like the way that was structured, or no, I don't like that at all.
I'm constantly searching. Like, I do it for fun. I don't know. I like to look at other people's things just so I can get an idea of what I want to do for my own marketing. And sad to say, in this day and age, perception is everything. If they have a bad perception of your business, no one's going to come to you because it's just the perception of what you're promoting. So if you have a good or bad perception, you need to make sure that it's clear of what you're doing so people understand.
A friend of mine, Katie Clancy on Cape Cod, just won an award for having one of the top 10 brands and websites in the United States. And her site is thecapehouse.com. So get a chance to look at that when you can. So again, we're talking about competing brands. Its objective is to occupy a clear, unique, and advantageous position in the consumer's mind. Obviously, you want to be recognized, but you also want to be remembered. So this cartoon says it all. Our study concludes that this is the percentage of our customers who will buy from us without any effort whatsoever on our part. So that's where we are at ground zero. You know, we're just trying to get ourselves to constructively look at what we have. Positioning is about being heard. 1, differentiate from the competition. And 2, identify the market segments. Who are you marketing to, and how well are you marketing to them? If you're talking to everybody, no one will hear you.
Yes.
So it's important to recognize who do you want to market to. Remember what I said in the beginning. Don't be everything to everybody. Concentrate on what your strengths are. And
well, I think if you're targeting, the millennials, there's a certain way that you need to talk to them. They need to, be fast, be visually pleased, and very engaged. So if there's a millennial that's reaching out, you need to be really quick with them. If it's an older, 55 and older couple, or, all these, they need slower guidance, and probably in person, and, a little more hand-holding. Old school. Yeah, old school way.
Yeah.
So figure out how and who you want to market to and which ones you want to focus on.
We talked about the niche marketing in one of our other classes, and you want to differentiate yourself from the other brokers in the area, but you also want to surpass them. So it's not enough to be different. You have to be better than in a different way, because it is a very competitive market out there. Good versus great. Good companies have marketing strategies. Great companies have a positioning strategy first, then a marketing strategy. The clutter factor. In 1993, the average consumer received 2,000 to 3,000 marketing messages a day. Today, it's more than 30,000 messages a day. 10 times the competition, 3 times the cost, and 1/2 the result. So that only proves again that the competition is fiercer out there.
And if you're not fast enough, somebody else is going to beat you to it.
I mean, look at the brand recognition we have with some of the larger brands. Even brands that made their brand, like take a Hershey candy bar. Hershey's a very old company, but they've been consistent with their brand. Another thing that's consistent with big brands is songs. When you start to hear a song, it's recognizable and helps you identify with that brand right away. So going back to Mark, if you're listening, we've used you several times today, but his branding is consistent so that whatever thing he sends out, it's recognizable by people. And when you do a content strategy, you want it to be consistent so that you, as you're building that relationship, when they get the second or third piece of marketing, they're like, oh yeah, I remember this person. I remember picture. I remember that team logo, whatever it is. The problem is unlimited options, immediate comparison, and this causes little to no loyalty, little to no patience, and high expectations. So once again, how are you differentiating yourself? How are you standing out from the guy next door? You live in a subdivision and 3 different agents are marketing to that subdivision. What are you going to do differently than they are doing to stand out? This can take some creative thinking. The new reality: good equals dead, great equals survive, and observably excellent equals thrive. So you need to step back and say, how am I doing things? What could I be doing better?
I think they just have to be truly committed. If you're going to start some type of campaign, it has to be something that you're willing to stay with, because then you're just wasting time and you're wasting money. Why do that?
Right.
And so many people do that. They're like, oh, I have this great campaign going on, and I'm gonna send these cards out, and then they start getting busy, and then they just stop, and then all of a sudden they're not busy, and now they have no work. You always have to continuously keep your pipeline going, and if you stop marketing and you stop being consistent, then eventually they'll just forget about you.
So this next slide is too small for us to even go over. But I wanted to remind everybody that I did print this out for anyone who came to the class today. This presentation is in Jostle in the library under training. So you can look at all of the slides that we've presented today, and the branding one is there as well.
I believe this is on Jostle as well, the 122-point self-assessment. You can go through it and basically make sure that you're doing all of these items to make sure you're positioned correctly on the market.
And again, it's like we talked about in the beginning. It's not about beating yourself up about what you're not doing. It's about what points of this could I take to improve what I am doing and improve the marketing that I'm doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that they have to do everything.
Right.
If you're doing one or two, like a few things very well, then you should be fine. It's just, there's so many different ways to do this business, and people get overwhelmed with how many options we have to continue to promote and get your name out there. But if you're doing a few things the right way, consistently, they will bring you revenue.
And to that point, let's talk about a couple of websites to help you with that. There's a website called Trello.com, Trello.com, which can help you get organized and help plan your marketing ahead of time. And then, as my friend Katie Lance would say, batch content, meaning if you have 5 ideas of things you want to do, take a Friday afternoon and batch all of those ideas, put them all out there, and you're going to schedule them ahead of time on?
So it depends on which platform you're using. So if you're doing it on Facebook, I always recommend using the Facebook to schedule them, because they just get better turnout and better viewing rate. There's another app called Affy that I use for Instagram, and that automatically links to Zillow as well. Or you can have Hootsuite, and there's a ton of different programs that you can use to schedule out your social media.
But again, the way Katie Lance explains it in her webinars, and by the way, she's a wonderful person to listen to, and she's on YouTube if you want to see her there. Her website is getsocialsmart.com, and it's also katielance.com. But she says, don't wake up on a Monday morning and say, oh, when was the last time I marketed about this or that or the other thing? Take that Friday afternoon or whatever it is and put your 5 things down that you want to market next week. Schedule it ahead of time, and then you wake up Monday morning and you know that it's already in place. Kiki does a very good job of that.
Yeah. Over the weekend, at night, right before bed, I'm like, I get the whole week done, and then I don't have to worry about it.
And you can schedule it when it will come out.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
The timing is a big thing.
Timing is a big thing. What time of the day are most people on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you can schedule things to that as well. So the number one mistake of most agents is not doing the obvious. Only 3 ways to grow your business. Number 1 is more customers. Number 2 is more money per customer. And number 3 is frequency of the sale. This really only accents what we were saying about the consistency in your marketing. A quick look at the numbers. The average commission is $6,500 times 10 deals a year equals $65,000. If you did a 20% increase in commissions and deals, the average commission would be $7,800 times 12 deals, or $93,600 a year. A 20% increase in commissions and deals equals more than 40% increase in revenue. So there's a goal to think about. How do we make more money? Position first, market second. So when I'm meeting with brand new agents who don't have any past clients, I say to them, what market would you like to, what group would you like to market to? What town do you live in? Do you live in a subdivision? Whatever you pick, whether it's your past clients or whether you're brand new and you're just picking an area of town or a subdivision, whatever you pick, your marketing has to be consistent. This is a competitor analysis talking about strengths and weaknesses.
I believe this is also on Jostle.
Yeah. So go over this again. You can look up this entire PowerPoint, but it's all of this is to get you thinking. How am I doing my business now? How could I improve it? And it isn't to make more work for yourself, because with some of these programs we just mentioned, you can actually get more organized to focus better on sales by organizing yourself ahead of time.
Someone had a question about what time is best to post. So basically the way that I do it is I make sure something's posted first thing in the morning, because I know personally I roll over and I'm not out of bed yet and I grab my phone and the first thing I do is look at the news and it's Facebook. So I usually post my stuff in the morning. So I usually do around 6, between 5:30 and 7, because that's when everyone's trying to get up. That's the first thing that they do. Or on the weekends I do it a little later, because usually people wake up later. And then throughout the day, if I have something going on around lunchtime, I'll post. Or right when people are getting out of work. That's another thing, that they just grab their phone. They haven't had their phone all day. So it depends, what you're trying to do. But I usually do it first thing in the morning. Do you have anything?
I would also say the frequency in which you post does affect it, because how Facebook, how Instagram, how they work, they're algorithm based, they're not chronically based. So they're going to show you stuff that's most relevant to you and what you like. So if you're out there and you're putting out content, if you put it out consistent enough, there's more things that are going to be able to break through that algorithm. It used to be that, okay, if my friends post at 6 o'clock, I post at 6 o'clock, I know that they're going to see it.
Right.
But now it's not like that. So I would also add frequency is a very big factor.
And when you do a focused audience in Facebook, you can look at the response of that as well to see the...
If it works.
Yeah.
So if randomly just threw it out there and no one saw it, it's because
Right.
you didn't do the timing correctly.
So in the beginning, when you're first starting that, you want to be careful to look at the analytics to try to
Yes.
gain what is best.
It's a pretty loaded question, because it
Yeah.
depends on your audience, and you can look at your analytics to determine that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing, if it's older people, if it's young millennials, like they all have different times when they go on Facebook,
Right.
and they all use Facebook for a different reason.
Mhm.
So if you need to figure out what you're marketing and who you want to see your stuff.
So back to the analysis. Is your proposed advantage really an advantage that the target client perceives or cares about? So it's saying what you're thinking of doing as differentiating yourself, is that something that you really think will be striking enough to make a difference? What perceived need is going unfilled or unexpressed? Sometimes I think about this one as, do you know a neighborhood that's underserved? Or even a part of the population that's underserved, where you could offer a product that differentiates you, like people who need credit repair. Let's just, a lot of times people don't even realize that there's hope, that if they talk to somebody and have somebody walk them through that, they're like, oh, I don't think I could ever do the American dream. Maybe you could reach out and do some webinars and say, I can help you understand the process. Relocation, if you could say, I love relocation and I love showing people the communities and the schools and the shopping and hospitals and everything, then people who are with the hashtags, for instance, they might reach out to you more because you enjoy that phase of real estate business. Again, not being everything to everybody, but finding what your niche is going to be and trying to concentrate on that. And are you fulfilling something that is a needed advantage?
Well, I think another thing to add to that is offering information that they just don't know. There's so many people that rent, and in this day and age, rent is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if you can put down money for a rental, you might be able to buy a house. And people are like amazed at the fact that, you know, nowadays it's hard to get into a rental. It's harder to get into a rental than to actually buy a house.
Yeah.
They, you know, are asking these crazy requirements, and if you can get into a rental that's, you know, a good amount of money, and around this area at least, you probably can qualify. We just need to either work on your credit, work on more down payment, whatever it is, but why continue to pay for someone else's house when you can buy your own? You don't have to deal with renting. You don't have to deal with the month-to-month or the leases or not being able to have pets. Like, you get more freedom. And if you offer that help and that hand to, you know, I'll guide you the entire way, they're more grateful for you, and they're more likely to refer you to other people.
To speak to that, the reason the internet started was for the sharing of information.
Yes.
So most of the time, what people, especially because the internet's still in its baby stage, like a lot of people just go to Google stuff. So if you can be that source of information, and if you can be a valid source of information that's trusted, not only are they going to trust you to give them that information, but they're going to trust you to take them along for the ride.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point, and the information that you give does help you build the relationship with the client. And Pinterest is one of my favorite places to go to as a source. Believe it or not, I feel Pinterest is a Google source. Why should you reinvent the wheel of creating content, even if you put it into your own words? If you put in the 5 things a buyer should know if they're buying their first home or converting from an apartment to their first home, if you put that into Pinterest, all sorts of information comes up, and even infographics about the differences of taking that condo fee and converting that into part of your mortgage payment or whatever it is. But look at these sources and then make it into your own content. But again, if you're providing the service, that adds to your value proposition. So the last question here says, how can you improve your marketing position in each of the areas above? So all that we're doing here is trying to get you think of, what are you doing now? How can you differentiate yourself, and how can you improve your value proposition? And it still also all goes back to the PowerPoint that we just did on branding and the consistency of your branding. Develop a swipe file. Be an importer of success ideas. We just talked about this, not only with Pinterest, but subscribe to RAS Media or one of the national real estate platforms. Even NAR has a lot of great articles. You know, be always learning and be always sharing, because you're helping add the value to your client. We have always been shameless about stealing great ideas. Well, we don't want to steal it. If you use someone's quote, and I do that quite often, with Katie Lance, with Deborah Trappin, give credit to whoever wrote the quote. That's the right way.
And I do this all the time. I see something I love, I snapshot it, screenshot it, save it for later. I'm always out there looking for something that I'm gonna reuse in my own marketing. So I'm like, oh, that looks awesome. I could recreate that for myself. I'll screenshot it. Like, my phone is jam-packed with photos. Like, I buy storage just for the photos that I take. Because I have to see things, and if it catches my eye, I'm going to use it.
Yeah,
So.
it's great. What is your value proposition? How are you unique? Why do clients buy from you and not your competitor? What does the customer want most that he is not getting from anyone else? That's so important. Are you sitting with your client, listening and walking them through the steps of what's involved in a transaction? Are you explaining that to them, which gives them a comfort feeling, helps to make a smoother transaction for them? Find the perceived need and then fill it. Were you raising your hand? Oh.
They just want attention, honestly.
Yeah.
They want to feel like they're heard.
Positioning statement. What are you already providing but not telegraphing? If you've done something like sharing the 5 things that you need to do before you list your home, as far as a staging thing or something like that, have you said it once, or are you repurposing that on Facebook or on Instagram, whatever? Specialize. Do not be afraid to deselect markets. And this goes back to what Katie Lance said. Lean into who you are and who you are not. Don't try to be everything to everybody. Segmentation. Don't be afraid to deselect people. There's actually a lot of freedom in doing that, carefully doing that. But again, you can't be everything to everybody. And if you haven't been a good fit for that person, I heard someone say it yesterday, they said to that person, you might be better served by someone else who's knows this community better, or something like that. There's no problem with that at all. Especially to that person might appreciate the fact that you helped them to get served the best way that they could. Positioning statement. Domino's, 30 minutes or it's free. Oh, this is their statements. FedEx, when it absolutely needs to get there overnight. Maxwell House, good to the last drop. Subway, eat fresh. Planet Fitness, no lunks. These companies really thought about what it is that a consumer wants and what they aren't getting from someone else. So there again, we're saying it's not only differentiating yourself from the other agent, it's surpassing that. It's not enough to be different, you have to excel in a different way when you're establishing your value proposition. How to gain mind share. Most people are emotional, not rational when buying. The best way to get your message to stick is empathy plus hope equals mind share. I think this goes back to what we've been saying all along, is be a good listener. The statement, listen twice as often as you speak. And when you listen, we talked about this in objection handling. Let the person, the client, voice whatever their statement is, their concern is, whatever. Affirm, repeat whatever they've said, affirm it, and then go on to a discussion. By doing it that way, you've respected what they're saying. You say, I respect the fact that you feel a certain way, let's talk about it. And that's what it says here. I understand how you can feel, I can fix it, buy for me. I mean, that's kind of a simple statement, but somewhere in between lies what really happens. People buy with their hearts, not their minds. And we just said this. I understand how you feel, I can fix it, buy from me. But that, I guess that's your positive affirmation. The competition in today's marketplace is not for customers' money. The real competition is for their emotions. And I think that is a change in the way they're perceiving us. We're trying to build relationships, just not have a transaction. Again, Katie Lance says relationships are built one interaction at a time. So you want this to be a building relationship, not just a cut and dried transaction.
My biggest thing when I have a new client and they have like family members or kids and stuff, I always try to include them. Like if I'm talking to just one person in the family, I'm like, well, how is your husband gonna feel? How are your kids? What do they need? And that kind of gets them thinking, okay, so this is a family process. We all need to be happy, and they appreciate me asking them about their family and what's going to make everybody happy. So anytime I meet anybody, I try, if they're talking about something personal, I try to remember that one personal thing that they talked about. It could be anything, the smallest thing, but the next time you see them, you remember that tiniest, smallest personal thing, and you remember that, you bring it up. They love that. They're like, oh, she remembered me, and I can't believe she remembered that from our last conversation. And that automatically creates trust.
Again, the wish list falls into place here too. And we were talking about that yesterday. If you present them with a wish list or discuss a wish list, you may find that the two partners in the transaction have completely different ideas. Maybe she's pregnant for the third time and wants another bedroom and a bathroom, and he's like, oh, I just wish I could have a garage. So listening to what the needs are helps a lot for you to understand where they're at.
And sometimes you have to be the middleman for all that.
Oh, yeah.
You have to, you know, have the real conversations or compromise between them, because they'll argue about certain things. I've had couples where, I'm like, I'm like, you have to be their personal friend when it comes to certain things like that. Like, do you really want to fight her over this? Do I need to really fight him over that? You kind of try to put it in perspective, because they're so into how they feel. You kind of need to open up the picture for them.
I think back to what Kiki was saying. We are the professionals, and we have to understand that this is very emotional for them, for whatever the reason is, and especially if there are children involved. There's a lot of emotion with that. Are they staying in the same school system? Are they staying in the same town? Are they leaving their friends? And just to segue for a second, there's a moving box company that Kiki and I use that really does an emotional tug to children. And can you speak about that box?
I'm blanking on the company, but I'll send it out to everyone. Yeah. So it's basically a moving box branded to you as the agent, and it comes with crayons. I'll bring it tomorrow so you guys can see it. But so it's a little box. It's probably like 3 feet or something.
It looks like the McDonald's Happy Meal box, only bigger.
And you can color on the outside. So there's a house on the outside. There's, you know, a whole bunch of different projects, crossword puzzles, and they're nonprofit organizations. So they go and give all the money that we pay for the boxes. They give to children's hospitals. So
the thing that's nice about it for the kids is they're worried about what's going to happen to my stuff. So this is a box for each of them to put their
important items before moving.
Teddy bear in or whatever, so that they have something themselves. And at the same time, and you can do this toward the beginning of the transaction. You don't have to wait till later on. You can send 5 regular moving boxes, again, with your branding on the side. I think it was like $42 for the 5 boxes. And the day that it arrives, I've had people call me and go, oh my gosh, you don't know how much I needed that. Thank you very much for sending it over. Doesn't matter where in the transaction it is. They're thrilled that you thought to do that one little extra thing. And then if you, on top of that, remembered to send something for the children, it's like a double.
Yeah, never forget the children.
Yeah. Start with why. Number 1, way to connect with someone emotionally is as follows. Nobody cares what you do. They do care about why you do it. People connect with why. So always keep that in mind. Positioning shift. We make computers. Ours has Quadra, Core, i7, whatever all of this is, versus, So if you talk, well, I think what this is saying is if you talk over their heads, what are you accomplishing? We believe in challenging the status quo and thinking differently. We build beautifully designed tools
Yes.
that unleash your creative potential to help you change the world. Want to buy? So again, sometimes we get caught up in the buzzwords,
Yeah.
P&S even, they're
But
like,
we're trying
"What
to
is that?"
impress other agents instead of our actual clients, and that's the biggest mistake people do all the
Yeah.
time.
I once attended a first-time homebuyer seminar that Kiki did in Lowell, and one of the greatest pieces of paper that was handed out that day was each word and the definition of it. Because as the bankers spoke, the bankers go on, escrow and this and that and the other thing.
They don't know any of that
They're
stuff.
like, whoa, the things we take for granted. And if it's their first time out, go back to the first day of school and be comforting and help them to understand the process. I had somebody say to me recently, I didn't realize I needed money to put down. I thought it would just come out of the proceeds of my sale. And we're like, yeah, no, that's not.
Yeah.
So.
They usually just go through it as if they don't know anything.
So back to creating what you're going to include in your marketing and value proposition. What do you love? What do you hate? What are you passionate about? Paint a picture of a better world for your client or declare a fight. Pick a common enemy. Both ways speak to the heart. So each situation is completely different. Once you've created a position, market it. Postcards, website, blogs, presentations, business cards. Be uniform in your marketing, and this goes back to the branding. We will talk tomorrow in boot camp about improv, which in Jostle is called the LAER Marketing Center. But it's a great place to begin. It is free to you as a LAER agent, and everything is there, from all sorts of flyers to brochures, just listed, just sold, action plans to put your past clients on, to put a buyer on, to try to build the relationship. You've got to be doing these things. And the presentations. In Jostle, in the library, we have an entire section on presentations, and we'll be talking more about that next week with Ilona. The buyer presentation is there, the seller presentation, the pre-listing presentation. They're in Word and in Publisher. All of this has been done for you. Also, in Stacy's book, How to Hire a Lion, the first chapter talks about the full service agent and the full service company. So you are presenting yourself, your team if you're part of a team, and you're representing LAER. So make sure that you know these things ahead of time. And if somebody calls and says, can you come over in 10 minutes and list my house, you have all of that prepared. So a quick recap. We all want to make more money. A 20% increase in units and volumes is more than 40% increase in revenue. We need to get heard, which means we need to get our message into a lot of ears, but not all ears, because when we talk to everyone, no one hears us. The way to be heard is to position by 1, taking only a segment of the market, and 2, clearly differentiating ourselves from the competition. Once we have properly positioned ourselves, then we can market. This is a great time of year to be thinking of that as you're preparing for the spring market. We can then use the 120-point self-assessment tool to market ourselves with a uniform message that is used on everything that has our name on it. So again, combining the branding PowerPoint that we did, which gets you to think about how you're creating your branding, and then how are you positioning yourself, your value proposition, not only to differentiate yourself, but to position yourself as better, different but better, and excelling what some other agent is doing. Books to read. The Purple Cow, The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster, The Blue Ocean Strategy, and Start With Why by Simon Sinek, who I saw at Inland last year, who's wonderful.
I wanted to ask you, Renee, what are your thoughts on social media and how do you market? Because you have great marketing, so.
Thank you. I believe there's a clear difference between posting a status update and telling a story. You really have to connect with people, and just saying stuff like, you know, and I do sometimes. I don't tell a story constantly. I will sometimes just put, you know, I'll check into the town of Tewksbury and I'll say, great day to be selling real estate, just to keep top of mind that I am in real estate. Not that anybody doubts it, but if I have an appointment with a client, I like to, if it's something that I feel is worthy of sharing, I like to tell the emotional aspects. I'll oftentimes meet with people who introduce me to their parents who are aging and can no longer stay in the home, and how emotional that is, like how hard that is for them to let go of, you know, and I'll say something like, you know, a home isn't a structure. It's actually a holding place of everything that's, you know, everything that's gone down there.
Someone's life.
The failures, the successes, the celebrations, the funerals, everything. It's really everything. So letting go of that's extremely hard. And so I tap more into that. I might get about 10 transactions a year from Facebook. But it's really connecting with people, and your heart's going to be in it.
Yes.
I feel like if your heart's not in it, the story you paint won't really.
They'll see through it. Yeah, they'll see right through it.
Yeah, they know.
Yeah. You know, I believe in telling a story, and being very articulate about that. And I might edit my posts like 10 times before I actually post it. I think it's important to do that. I think it's definitely, to Joe's point, it's definitely important to watch when your people connect with you the most. So everybody's, you know, what my people might do might be very different from your people. You know what I mean? I do agree with Kiki though that for the most part, people are on in the morning, they're on at night. I tend to notice that people are on a lot Sunday nights.
Yeah.
I get a lot of, even like, and another thing, here's another thing I say. Just because people aren't liking or commenting on your post, there's a whole slew of people out there that just watch.
Oh yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
And it's amazing. Yeah. Because I would, like, you know, and so don't like go through your, you know, like if you're having like an emotional Facebook thing going on in your head and you're like, okay, I'm gonna declutter my friends list. Don't declutter your friends list. Because those people are watching you. You have a free audience of however many people you have on your friends list paying attention to you even though you don't know it.
Yeah.
So watch what you like, watch what you comment on too, because you don't want to be commenting on anything controversial.
Yeah.
So I always say watch that. Watch what you put out as your bio, right? So the things that you say about yourself, people will go into your about section and they will read what you write.
Yeah.
So watch that, keep it very positive, or, you know, and then if there are some photo albums that you don't want public, or you don't want, you can customize everything on Facebook. So watch, pick and choose what you're willing to share, and remember that whatever you share, people, that's their perception of you.
Absolutely.
You should be friending your clients. Your clients, you should definitely be adding on Facebook. I'm actually, I'll admit, I'm only on Facebook, but I'm quickly going to be, I found out from my team, I'm quickly going to be on other social platforms, so whatever. Anyway, but connect with people, because these are your greatest source of future business as well. So, and if that means understanding how to make a friends list and how to customize your posts, you know, if you want to just post something for a certain friends list, all that. But it's really about being top of mind, and I always say Facebook is the ideal platform for that, because, and always keep adding to your friends list, right? If there's past coworkers and you know that they have other coworkers in that same office that maybe you didn't get a chance to meet because you're no longer there, friend them, right? Because this is an ideal friends list for you. Past coworkers, they're working, number one, depending on where they're working and, you know, what they do, how much money they make, they're an ideal source of future business. offer to do a seminar for that employer. You know, offer some type of special, exclusive, whatever. But this is a way to connect with people. It's also a way to connect with other realtors too. Don't shy away from adding realtors. You can, you know, if you feel they're a good fit for your team or LAER.
They're watching what you're doing.
Good. You might be co-broking with them, and it maybe having a connection with them is a good thing. You know, you want that. Yeah, I think to me, but I also think that you don't want to go overboard with your posts, because the more they see you posting, then they're thinking, is she ever working?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a fine line that you walk. You don't want to.
You can tell when they're the workers and then the ones that are just posting all day. Like you can tell the difference when people are actually working, making money, versus the people that are just constantly on Facebook.
I say like 3 posts a day, one of which should be, at least one should be about real estate.
Yeah.
People also do want to see you on a personal level too. Like they want to see you out to dinner. They want to see, you know, the rainbow and puppy posts, whatever, you know, like everything's great. But and I sometimes will share a challenging post, like, you know, I had this challenging transaction, or I had a challenging day, or I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but here's how I turned it around. They need to see you on a human level too.
I usually tell all my kids crazy stories.
Yes.
How they're driving me crazy that day.
Yeah, we love
That's
that.
relatable.
Yeah.
The other thing that Katie says is don't just flip through Facebook and click like. Take the time to be personable to the people that you're trying to stay in relationship with. If there's a congratulations or I'm sorry or whatever it is, take the time to write that besides your like. And she uses a rule of thumb of doing that to 5 people a day. So early in the morning when she's looking at what's happened on Facebook, she tries to do a special note to 5 of the people a day rather than just hitting like all the time.
It's important. A comment will get you. You'll definitely be thought of more than somebody.
Yeah.
Well, now the algorithm for Facebook is if you're not communicating with these people, they're not going to see your post. They're not going to, you know, you're not going to pop up on their timeline anymore. So if you're not continuously having a conversation, liking their posts, commenting, they're just going to say, oh, well, they don't really know this guy anymore. They're just going to be put down to the side. So if you are looking for people that you want to stay in touch with and make sure that they see your stuff, make sure you're talking to them, commenting on their post, their Facebook pages, whatever it is. Make sure that you're reaching out. So they, you know, they see that you're in touch with them as well on Facebook. Even if it's just a like, people look at who's looking, who's liking, and who's commenting.
And if you happen to be offended by somebody, you can unfollow them for 30 days.
Yes.
You don't have to unfriend them.
Yes.
So.
Because sometimes somebody will post something that's obscene or
thing
like that. Or,
you can either hide. I think
you could hide them.
You can also just unfollow them
that
for 30. Because I do have some people on my friends list that are like
out there.
Downers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, the downers.
So
that's
I
the worst.
Follow them and then, you know, but I don't unfriend them.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay, we're going to switch gears now and talk about lead conversion.
So turning a fling into a relationship. Kind of goes in hand when what we've been talking about this whole time. So tip 1, spend more time building your business through friends, family, acquaintances, your sphere of influence, so you don't have to convince strangers to like you. So if your family likes you, that's great. Continue on that path. And I think people in real estate forget, especially first starting out, they forget how many people they actually know. Like, you know everyone you have a conversation with, if you drop your kids at school, if you go to school, you know people everywhere. And I think that's the biggest thing. They're like, well, where do I get business from? I don't know anyone. Yes, you do. You know everybody. Everybody in your circles. That's the people that you need to go after. And let them know that you're in the business. Tip 2, the highest income earners in real estate don't work buyers. So they have a bunch of people that are just being referred to them. They have listings going on and they move forward with, they know where the listings are. So that's just,
That's a big thing though, because At my previous brokerage, I was at an event, and one of the seminars I attended, one of the girls on stage worked in Cambridge, and she said, ditch the buyers. And I was like, that's crazy, that's 50% of my business.
Mm-hmm.
And, but really what that does is open you up to 50% more time to get listings, which will ultimately bring you more listings and buyers to refer.
Yes.
It's amazing. So definitely be okay with making
It's a
that
switch in the mindset.
Yeah, yeah, you have, you're
Yeah.
going for a different, So as long as you understand that you're not giving it up, you're just focusing more on listings, you're still gonna get buyers. It's just you're putting more effort into the listing aspect. Tip 3, I know a ton of people that do this. Do not catfish your customers. Make sure your profile picture is what you look like now, not like 20 years ago. They're just doing the 10-year challenge on Facebook right now.
Yes, yes.
And I did do it. For some reason, I look older back then than I am now. So, but yeah, make sure that you're up to date. What would you say, every 2 years to update your photo? I don't know.
It goes back to what I said about LinkedIn too. LinkedIn is your professional platform, and people, whether it's buyers, sellers, or other realtors, are going to look there first to say, what does their picture look like, and what does their bio say? So make sure in all cases, first of all, that your picture's updated, but that your bio is current.
Yes.
I agree though with Kiki, because initially when you think every 2 years, I don't age much in 2 years, but what you don't want to do is do it like every 7 years, where the difference is now drastic.
Yeah.
Like, who's that?
Yeah.
Scare them.
She's like,
She aids awful.
there's a top broker in the Andovers, and
Yes.
if you met this person in real life, you wouldn't recognize them.
Yes.
No.
So it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
You don't want to scare them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, our photographer, he did a great job on
Yeah, so he'll be here tomorrow as well, so that's good. And you could always have them, touch up and stuff. That's fine, as long as you look what you look like.
Yeah.
You can't change it, but don't scare them that, they're expecting this thing and then something else comes up.
And again, remember how that relates to the branding that we talked about first.
Yeah.
So.
Then you've deceived them and they're like, whoa, wait a minute, what else are you lying
Who
about?
are you?
What are you hiding?
Yeah. Tip 4, what is rapport? A close and harmonious relationship in which the people or groups concerned understand each other's feelings or ideas and communicate well. We were just talking about this. Make sure you understand how they're, feeling, what their concerns are. And I think the biggest thing that people forget is how they communicate again. Some people like to just talk through text. Some people want conversations. Some people want in-house conversations in person. So be flexible with that, and it's a big important thing. Yep.
When we do consults, that's one of the questions we ask, is what's your preferred method of contact?
Yes.
Can you receive texts during the day? Do you prefer email, phone? When we're under contract, then I have that conversation, because they need to understand the expectation
Yes.
of a prompt response.
And you send them to multiple people, so husband and wife, they're getting
Yes.
all the
everything all the
decision makers
same.
need
Yep.
to, right.
Who needs to be on the conversation?
Yeah, in fact, I will only meet with all decisions. I mean, you can't just meet with one person.
No.
I know I'm meeting with the wife today and not the husband, but she said we know exactly what we want, so he'll catch up later because he can't work.
I mean, it works. It depends on the dynamic of the relationship.
Yeah.
So it does work. I've had where I didn't meet the husband until the end. Like there's situations where it
If they're clear
has to
that it's
happen.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Just
fine.
at the time.
And every situation is unique. To be great lead converters, we must be persistent, consistent, and rapport builders. So when a lead comes in, you have to do them quickly, because somebody else is going to get them if you don't, or they're going to get bored from waiting too long for your response and they're going to go somewhere else. And if you're not getting in touch with them right away, do not just forget about them. A lot of people be like, oh, well, they didn't answer when I called. Maybe I'll call them the other day. And by that time, they've already moved on.
Right, yeah.
So I usually do and we'll have Justin Mello here next week about how the way he does his business. But what I usually do is once a lead comes in, I'll either call him right away. If he doesn't answer, I'll text him right after. I don't leave a voicemail. I just text them right after. They usually text back through tech when I text them. And if they don't do that, then I just assume that they're working and I send them an email. And then I try again at a later time the same day until I, reach them.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but be consistent. Why rapport matters.
I just have one thing on that.
Yeah.
I'm ready about this stuff. Is don't think you're being a pain in the butt.
Yes.
That's the biggest danger zone.
That was my biggest thing when I first started. I'm like, I'm bothering these people. They're
Yeah.
not answering. I don't want to be a pain. Like,
That's
I don't
it.
want to be annoying. I
Right.
feel like if I'm over calling someone, because my sister does this to me all the time. If I don't answer the first 2 times, I'm busy. But she will continue to call. She doesn't care.
Yeah.
So that's my sister. So I'm like, if my sister's doing it to me and I'm a business person and I'm doing it to someone else, I feel like I'm being annoyed. But they just,
So I have very strict lead follow-up protocol for the team. And I always share the story that when I first signed up for Zillow, I wanted to be comfortable making sure I was capable of converting the leads before expecting the team to. So I was working a few of the leads. And it took me 18 times to reach this woman. I called her twice a day. Boom, 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 right? She finally picks up and she's like, who is this? And I said, once I explained who I was and why I was calling, she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, and then I ended up closing her. But
Nice.
it took me 18 times to reach her.
Really?
And really
Wow.
understanding, I'll send it to you and you can get it out to, I'm sure you have it though, it's that sales statistics that on average, a salesperson will stop after 3 tries.
yes, yeah,
And then it goes and it keeps.
yep,
So to get that high level of lead conversion that you want, you have to be at that very bottom, which is literally like when 95% of salespeople will give up.
yep,
You still have to be, because even now, I was, as a sales professional, if somebody's trying to reach me and they give up, because they want my business, I think, I don't want to do business with you now.
yeah,
Because you've just set the standard for me that you're not that good at your job. So I'm not gonna do business with you.
makes sense.
You don't know what they do for work sometimes, so you don't know what their perception of a good salesperson is. I always think of them as, I always visualize and get in my head, if I'm going after business, I'm being tested. I am actually reaching out to a sales coach who's testing me on my skills. That's the mental game I play with myself, so that I don't go into that, I'm being a pain in the neck, all this other stuff.
That's good, yeah.
That's a good idea. That's a good way to look at it. So it says, feel comfortable, safe, and at ease. Talk openly and freely about difficult topics. Consider appropriately offered advice. Feel understood. Feel positive value and respected. Can explore difficult issues and ask for more difficult questions. So I feel like I do a lot of buyer seminars, and this is when they have no idea what's going on. So you kind of have to know your audience, in my opinion. You need to know if they're kind of glazing over and have no idea what you're talking about, or they're completely on the same page with you. So for my buyer seminars, I can usually tell which ones are completely lost. And then I'll take a minute and be like, okay, I'll point them out and I'll be like, what do you need to understand better the process of what's happening right now?
Because they're afraid to ask.
And they're afraid to ask. They don't want to be the only one in the room asking a question. So, and sometimes they just don't want to talk about it. I'm like, well, we can meet afterwards as well. But I kind of slow down a little bit and be like, does anyone have any questions on this section? And if they don't, and I still see people glaze over because they're just afraid of talking up, speaking out, I kind of break it down a little bit more. So I think that creates more trust, and it opens them up to ask questions. And they'll be like, oh, is this a stupid question? I'm like, there's no stupid question if you don't know the answer.
So it goes back to two, is be okay with telling a story.
Yeah.
Share stories that they can relate to, so that maybe they don't have to ask the question.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because you just answered it in the story, like,
Yes.
oh, I just did, I met with a buyer last week, and here's some of the questions they asked me.
Yeah.
So,
And I do that a lot for, especially the buyers do not do list. Like, I'll say, this is the list you cannot do. Please don't do it unless you talk to your lender. But I had someone that didn't follow my rules and bought furniture before they closed on a credit card, and they could not buy the house. Or they bought a car, and they're like, oh, that can happen? Like, oh my God. So it kind of like switches gears. Like, I should listen to what she's talking about. I should read these and kind of get more involved. So I always try to make it personal any which way that I can. Lead conversion. Speed matters, rapport matters most, but speed matters first. So whoever answers the phone and calls them first gets the person, and then creating rapport is where you close them. A recent Realtor.com survey says that if you haven't responded within 15 minutes, you have lost the lead. And honestly, I think 15 minutes is way too long. So
Yeah, you have it coming. Just call them back.
they're like instantly, and it's all the social media's fault that everyone wants instant gratification, but 15 minutes is way too long. At least call, text, email right away. Even if you can't answer their question at that moment, just let them know you'll be in contact. Be like, I got your request. I'm in a meeting right now. I'll give you a call as soon as I can.
Right.
They appreciate that. They're like, oh, someone's going to call me. They expect it now. So that usually they're calling about a home. Before answering house questions, get more information and nudge them towards a meeting. I personally don't meet anyone at a house first time around. I kind of want to know what's going on with them, if they've been pre-approved, and go through my buyer consultation. That way I know what they're looking for, and if this house that they're interested in doesn't meet those qualifications, why are we looking at it? Sometimes Facebook, Zillow, and Realtor.com showcase a property, and if I've already been in that property, I can tell them, yeah, that's not going to work for you guys. So I always try to get them in-house, and I go through my buyer presentation. If you don't have a buyer presentation, I think we have some on Jostle that you can create, but it basically breaks it down, and it is a safety issue as well. Since you've never met these people, you're meeting strangers all day long in this business. You get to have the opportunity to come in, have a conversation, and go through the process, and also showcase your professionalism as well. So this is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to go through, and I'm going to be there the entire time, and I need to know what you need in order for me to find a house for you. And they appreciate that. Okay, so on the phone, the questions that you can ask is, how can I help you? Are you familiar with the area? That's my biggest go-to, is, are you from the area? Do you live in the area now? How did you decide on the area if they're not from the area? Are you looking for, what are you looking for in a home, and how did you decide on the price range? So how did you decide on the price range usually tells you whether or not they're pre-approved, without actually asking them. Some people get like weirded about, oh, well, not yet, whatever, but that's the easiest question to ask. How did you decide on the price range? So they say, oh, well, I got a pre-approval. They'll automatically say it. Or, oh, well, I've just been looking, think that I could qualify for that. That's when you're like, okay, have you spoken to a lender or not? So that would just open you up for the next question. Then the most important part, are you working with an agent in your search of a home? Is he or she local? And I think that is he or she local kind of like opens up another door for them. Like, well, she's not from the area. What, does that matter? And it can, and you want to make sure that you make sure that's clear. Do you have anything for that?
It's important to be able to service them, and if the agent is from East Longmeadow and is trying to show property in Danvers,
He doesn't know that market.
yeah, and is that agent going to come when a property comes in MLS and an hour later they want to see the house. So, it's about servicing them, and a lot of times you're really tight on the showing. Like this time of year, it's so tough because it gets dark so early. But if something exciting comes on the market, they may want to see it after work, or they may take off on their lunch hour. So if the agent that has listed their home is, 2 hours away, that's not going to serve them well.
So always make sure you know that. They will ask them. And if you are in that position, because I've had clients that were working with me here and they wanted to search somewhere else that I wasn't familiar with. So I had to do my due diligence and get to know the town. And by the time we found something, I was pretty, well versed in the area. But it's just always positioning yourself to be able to learn and go the extra mile and be there for your clients.
Sometimes the list agent will go, and if the agent tells them that they can't really accompany them, this is my client, because I know in Florida I had my agent is on the East Coast, and I'm looking at property on the West now to sell.
Oh yeah.
So she called up the list agent so I could go see some other property.
Nice, yeah.
They were fine with it. She just introduced herself, her agent, and
Yeah.
Believe it or not, sometimes they don't understand to tell you that they're already in a buyer contract with another agent.
Yes.
So again, the way you ask the questions may be different each time, but if you ask, are you working with another agent, and they say yes, then you might want to say, are you in a contract with that person? Because they may not understand that if they are in a contract, it's difficult for you to be showing them.
I usually just say, have you signed anything?
And sometimes they say, I don't think so.
Yeah, they just don't know.
Yeah.
Keep going. When you do end up finding the home of your dreams, do you foresee that you would be writing an offer with that agent? So that's another thing. So sometimes they'll be like, well, if you showed me the house, I would want to do it with you. That's another conversation that you would have to have. That's like, okay, well, did you sign the buyer agency contract? Because if you did, then I can't really help you.
As long as the first agent showed the same house.
Well, of course, yes. But this is for when someone calls you on a lead. I'm sorry this wasn't explained to you. One of the things I do when I'm working with buyers is I set up a time to meet with them to explain the entire process. Don't worry, it's not your fault. This is another way to set you up as, well, that agent didn't do their job type of deal. You were supposed to come in and have the process explained to you. Why are you just showing up to a house and have no idea what you have to do next? Because a lot of people do that. Yeah. They'll show up and be like, okay, I like this house. What do I do now? That was, you should have had the process already done for you and explained to you. That way you're prepared. Your buyer's prepared for this. And like Susan said earlier, people don't know that they need money down. So, or a pre-approval. It's, you need to tell them what's going on. But don't worry, it's not your fault. That's basically blaming the other agent. By the way, if your situation with that agent changes, I'm here and happy to answer any questions. I always say that as well. If they can't help you, give me a call. Take a photo of that.
Yeah.
Again, everyone, this entire PowerPoint is in Jocelyn, the library, and training.
Then build rapport. Have you spoken to a lender you feel good about? Here's what a good lender will do, and then add your people to it. So this is a great thing because I've had clients that had a lender or they did it online, submitted their information and was like, oh yeah, I got a pre-approval. But I'm like, no, this is what you should be doing. You should have a live person talking to you, and they should have asked you for all this information so you know where you are in the process. And they should be explaining the process to you. So I shouldn't be explaining you the lender's process because that's not my job. We have a team that does that for you.
I got a pre-approval letter from a buyer. The husband and wife both buying, but they only had the wife's name on the pre-approval.
So she must be the only one on the loan.
Well, I sent her an email.
We'll speak to the lender.
Yeah, I just sent her an email just to see if she's going to be the only one on the loans. I thought they both were in this together, so.
Yeah,
But
definitely
if
find
they
out.
are, they should both be on the letter, right?
Well, so the first thing that I do, I want to make sure who my lender is for my clients, and if they're going to communicate with me, because sometimes the buyer just doesn't know what the lender means when they just give them a pre-approval, like here it is, but they don't tell you the conditions, they don't tell you any other thing that they need to stay within the parameters of. So I always, after they send me the information, I call up the lender and like, you know, what can we stay in, what's going to work for my clients, and is there anything that I need to be aware of when finding a home.
Even the taxes too.
Yeah,
Like
the taxes will
eviction, that's on
play
top
a
of
big
that.
difference.
Yeah.
If they're buying a condo, the condo fees will play a big role in how much they qualify for. So you want to know everything.
Another big part of that, as you're talking to the buyer, having this meeting, and you're trying to find out how much they even understood when they met with the lender, is did the lender go over closing costs with you? And the reason that that's really important to know, to ask that question before you get to the point of writing an offer, is if the buyer wants to ask for the seller to contribute toward closing costs,
Yes.
you've got to have an estimate. Are they going to be $5,000 or are they going to be $12,000? You have to have that understood between the buyer and the lender before you get to the point of writing an offer.
Yeah, I had someone on the buy side. I was the list agent, and they didn't know they could ask for closing costs from their lender, and the lender required it, and that was not part of our agreement. And he's like, well, I didn't know, my agent didn't know, my lender didn't tell me. There's not much we could do at that point. We were in the middle of the transaction without having that, you know. But it's just the way that people do their explanation of how your options are this, you know, AYZ, whatever. So if you don't know about them, you won't ask for it. And that's my first thing, especially with buyers, is do you need down payment? Do you need money back at closing? I need to talk to your lender to figure out what's going on. And not only to just figure out if the lender's spoken to my client, but if the lender's going to be responsive to the timeline that we have. Are they going to be professional enough to make sure that this transaction goes smoothly, and if they're doing everything the right way in timely manner? You want a team that's going to work for you, not cause problems. And then empower them, give some info about the home. So of course this was just a conversation you would have with the client, a lead, and then finally give them information, exactly what they were looking for. Make them feel safe. Use your knowledge to make them feel like they have an advocate, someone who will protect them. So I instantly go into protective mode, like I've been, like, you know, did you do this? Did they do that? Did you get this situation done or taken care of? Did you start your process in there? And that will kind of, you know, I always say, if you're buying a house, I'm pretending I'm buying that house with you. I'm not going to let you do anything wrong that will affect you, because that's going to affect me, my reputation. I'm letting you buy something that you shouldn't be buying. Why would I do that? Prove your value. What buyers want most from real estate agents, help finding the right home to purchase, 55%. The rest of it is, you know, how to determine how much a buyer can afford, help with paperwork, determine the comparable homes who we're selling for 7%, help buyer negotiate the terms of a sale, and help with the price negotiation. So they basically want you to find them the right house and negotiate for them. The rest of it is just, you know, side deals here.
It's a good graph.
Yeah. Give them the info. Use comfort words. No problem, no rush, whenever you are ready. I use no problem for everything. Like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. That's my go-to phrase, even though I'm dying inside.
Yeah.
No problem, I'll get that done. So, listen and respond. Start completing a client profile sheet. So I do this when we have our bio consultation. I have a sheet that I have them fill out before they leave the building, and it basically asks their personal information, contact info, where they live, family members, phone numbers, who is going to be in touch, who I'm going to need to be in touch with, the times that they can talk, the way that they want to communicate. And I always collect their birthdays and their kids' birthdays if they have it, on that profile sheet, so I have an overview of my clients' lives. So this sets me up for reaching out to them later on for their birthdays, their anniversary, whatever it is. I have their information already.
Is this on Jostle?
I think there is a one on Jostle, but I can send you the one I have. I'll upload it to
Can
Jostle
you
as well.
send me that one too? Because I made one yesterday.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't put birthday.
She did, she made it by hand.
Yeah, I've been making my own, but
Yeah.
because I was looking for something. So.
Okay, yeah, and I also I think mine has like their if it's a listing appointment, I have the same thing, but it's differently. I'll ask them for their mortgage people and utility
Yeah,
bills and all that
everything's all
stuff,
on one-
everything
that's
on
what
one
I-
sheet,
yeah,
so that way I
that's
can
good.
always refer back to it.
You get that after they sign the contract with you?
Yes, so before they leave, they sign the contract. I'm like, all right, this is for me to help continue to make sure that I have all the information correct.
Okay.
Engage and connect, ask other questions that they may have. Always ask if they have questions.
A good point to that, again, is profiling. I don't mean that in a bad way, but you're listening to the composition of their family and what's going on in their lives. Years ago, I had a family move here with 3 boys, and she said to me right up front, only show us towns that have hockey rinks in them. And I actually did that. Our boys were very active in hockey, so I researched which towns or which school systems. I mean, some towns have public hockey rinks, and I did that. And so what was I doing? I was listening to their specific need, and I was focusing in on that. Another thing about being diplomatic about focusing is exactly where we are here in a suburban area of Boston, whether you're North or South Shore, but you try to have to be diplomatic about commute time. What somebody might say to you, I only want to be 10 minutes from work. Another person might say, I don't mind living 40 minutes if I can get a better value for the package that I'm buying and have my kids in a nice school system. So what one person might want is not what somebody else wants. And you just have to listen to it and then go by that.
Especially when they give you a large range of areas they're interested in. Well, where do you work? Because now they give us 6 towns.
Yeah.
So.
And to even if they say, oh well, I'll drive 40 minutes away, and then you show them a house in that area, tell them, make sure you get your route to work and let me know if this is going to work for you. Because I've had clients that lived in Mass, worked in Mass, but wanted to move to New Hampshire to buy more land so they can get more house for their money. And the commute at one area was too far from another area, so they had to it's a trial and error type of thing.
And the other point to that is if the 2 partners go in different directions.
Yeah.
One works in Boston and another works in Framingham or something, so.
Yeah, who wants to drive an extra, hour or two a day just to get to work? It's a waste. But people do it, so. But some people just don't want to take that time to do that. Set up a meeting. First meeting should be a buyer presentation. If you don't have one, create one. There's some on Jostle. We could always help you as well. Or a more casual meeting for coffee where you can explain the process in detail. Some people are just a little reluctant to go into I'm like, oh, we're not that serious yet. I'm afraid to go through the process. Just make it something simple. I had someone that couldn't make it to one of our buyer seminars, and I'm like, we can do this any day, anywhere. You tell me when. And we would meet I would met her on Saturday with my lender, and we went through the process. So if you're open to helping them, they're more receptive to actually coming out and meeting with you. Like, we'll go on your terms. How to get a meeting? Bribe them. Give them something free. So you could have Stacy's free book, free list of secret inventory, free something. So I usually give them, if it's a listing, I usually give them Stacy's book, and I also ask them if they want to be on my list of just solds in their neighborhood. So I just put them on an monthly email where MLS just sends them a list of everything that's sold in their neighborhood. And it just continues to send them stuff, so they always know what's going on in their market. And buyers, I just put them on my MLS to get listings as well. So and maybe a goodie bag or, you know, whatever it is for the time being for that month, you know, celebration or whatever holiday it is. But Stacy's book works just fine. Explain how you work. Many consumers believe you work 9 to 5. Let them know the benefits of having one agent available 24/7 to answer your questions. Now, with that being said, 24/7 is a strong statement. You do need to let them know that you sleep.
Yeah, right.
I don't sleep that much, but I have kids, so between a certain amount of time, especially in the morning, I can't do anything between 7 and 9 because I'm like trying to get my kids out of the house. So there's certain times where they're just like, you gotta wait and let them know. Give them an expectation of when you can reach back out with them. Even if you ignore them and send them a text, like, I'm trying to get my kids out of the house, I will call you as soon as they're at school, type of thing.
This is another point from Imprev, or as it says in Jostle, the LAER Marketing Center. There is a trifold brochure in there, and Kiki has actually created one about herself in English and in Spanish. But you can go into that trifold brochure and explain your value proposition, your branding, as we've been talking about, so that you have all of this ready ahead of time that states what you promise to do for these people. And
Yeah.
the different you might want to do, I don't know if you've done that, but certainly in the seller's end of it, you know, you might want to say, this is how I promise to market and thoroughly promote your house the way it deserves to be. And in the buyer's one, in both cases, you want to tell them how you're going to follow them through the entire transaction and make it smooth by being their advisor and helping them along the way. So having all of that prepared, and it goes back to the buyer presentation and all that Stacy has put in Jostle, which can be branded to you.
It's a cop at the door.
Oh,
She thought it walked.
sorry, we have,
Door.
can
I'll
you,
get it.
yeah.
So I've answered phone calls or messages at like 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night. If I'm on my phone already just browsing and someone messages me because they see that I'm online, I'll respond and be like, okay, you know, whatever. I'll answer their question and be like, all right, I'll catch up with you tomorrow morning or whatever it is. Have a good night. And they usually take the hint, like it's a bedtime.
And I think if you're fair to yourself and you tell them that, you know,
Yeah, they'll understand it.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And follow up. A thank you note, thank you email, or BombBomb. I do use BombBomb. You use BombBomb. Send them a link to client testimonials. Include a package about your services. So I usually do that with my buyer consultation.
And again, in your brochure, testimonials is a great thing. And back to LinkedIn, I know I've pushed that a little bit today, but it's a good place to start. Having your testimonials on LinkedIn, make sure that you copy that stuff and repurpose your testimonials wherever you can, because it's your clients speaking about you, not you speaking about you.
Yes, that's the best kind of publicity. Set up on MLS. Some say yes and some say no. MLS access is their key to work around us. I always put them on MLS just because I'm running around all day long and I don't have the time to sit there and watch everything all day long and then send it to them. It's going to do it for me. But I do understand why people say no, because they can customize what they send to the clients. The only issue I have with that is the fact that some people just don't know what they might like. And if they see something pop up that they haven't even thought of, it catches their mind and it opens up another door that, oh, I might like this. I do like how that looks. So some people don't like capes, but if you have a large cape, they might be interested. So I always say yes to put them on MLS, but I know agents that want to customize what's happening and don't put them on and manually do it.
Just send them a listing.
Yeah, and if you're not doing it, they're gonna look on Zillow and Realtor.com anyways.
to see
So
things,
why
yeah.
not be the source of
That's
the
true.
information? Drip. So email drip campaigns on LAER Marketing Center. There's Boston Logic. Add to your B list. Set up follow up in your calendars. A minimum of 5 follow ups per.
So back to the LAER Marketing Center, which again is free to you through LAER. If you open the drip campaigns in there, the very first one of the very first ones says LAER Buyer Drip Campaign, whatever it says. We had that created especially for us, and if you look at the content of it, it progressively builds the relationship, and it's those initial questions that you want to ask. Are you looking to buy or sell? Where are you looking? How much do you think you can afford? What is on your wish list? Have you spoken to a lender? So all of these things, that's a great campaign to use, and that is in Improv.
And I usually use Improv for my past clients, especially just so they get a monthly email from me or holiday email. They always know that I'm there, and then I'll do the follow-up phone call of what's going on. So last year, 2 years ago actually, I had sold a house to a young couple and their son, and this year they just had their second son. So in September, I was following them. We went to the some festival, and I saw them in the festival, and I'm like, oh my God, when are you due? I remembered she was due in January, and I just texted her the other day. I'm like, any baby? Yeah, what's going on? She's like, I'm so sorry, I didn't post anything on Facebook, because I was stalking her on Facebook to figure out if she had the baby.
Yeah.
She's like, I forgot to post. I'm like, so she sent me a photo, and it's just another way to reach out to remind them. So.
Well, the lady I'm seeing today just had their third baby, like maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
So on the way home, I'm gonna go pick up a
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice
absolutely.
idea.
And they won't expect it. So that's why I was waiting for her to let me know when she had the baby so I can send
Do
something.
yeah.
So I just reached out, and I'm like, all right, surprise at the door when it comes in. When leads don't respond, text, call 3 to 5 times a week, call on Saturdays afternoons, keep going until they tell you to stop. So.
Don't call me anymore.
Yeah. Can you leave me alone? But then you can't say that you didn't do everything that you could to get that lead.
Right.
You didn't just let it go. So you
Yes.
did your job. Type out your questions, carry them with you so you're always ready when the next lead comes in. A lot of people use scripts, and the more involved and more seasoned that you get as an agent, you'll just automatically know what to ask. But when I first started, I would forget certain things that I wanted to know right off the bat. So I did have a script of what I needed to know. So just so I wouldn't forget. And any questions on turning a fling into a relationship? No?
Also with questions?
Also with questions, eh?
So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Just so you know, tomorrow we have the LAER Boot Camp here at the office in Tewksbury, 1310 Main Street. We will be here all day with Stacy presenting all of the programs that LAER has to offer, and we will have the photographer here. And Friday, we will have a very exciting presentation from Matt McLaughlin in our Andover office, talking about cold calling, which is his favorite thing to do. We will also be talking about for sale by owners and expireds, and Ann Silverman will be here talking about pop-bys and how they can help your marketing and reaching out, especially to for sale by owners and expireds. So hope to see you then.